Hello, everyone, and welcome to Finding Resilience Through Integrative Practices. I am Heidi Parker. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Community Initiatives Manager, and I'm also your Zoom host today. This program is presented as part of Hope for LA, a special weekly series that aims to support our Los Angeles community amidst the unprecedented wildfires that have devastated our city. Each session will offer a supportive space for connection and healing as we navigate recovery, rebuilding, and restoration. While this series was developed as a response to the situation here in LA, the topics are accessible for anyone experiencing crisis. We are recording today's session in speaker view to be shared on our YouTube channel, and you are welcome to participate as you feel comfortable. Our session today is scheduled for an hour, and feel free to add questions in the chat as they arise or use the raise hand function. We are grateful you have joined us tonight, and we would like to take a moment to recognize the profound mental, physical, and emotional impacts of this challenging time. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Tongva Nation, on whose home and land the unceded territory of Los Angeles resides. As we are reminded of our environment's vulnerabilities, we hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. By their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. Let us reflect on and honor with gratitude the Indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. I would like to welcome Dr. Mary Hardy. She is a board-certified internal medicine and specialist in botanical and integrative medicine who has actively combined complementary and alternative therapies with traditional Western medicine for over 25 years in both her clinical practice and research projects. She is also a recognized leader in the field of integrative oncology and was the former medical director of the UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. She helped to establish and co-direct the Integrative Medicine Health and Wellness Program at the Venice Family Clinic, the largest free clinic in the U.S. She recently authored a popular book for Reader's Digest entitled Best Remedies and serves on a number of editorial and scientific advisory boards. Welcome, Mary.
Thanks, Heidi. And I feel like for what we're going to do today, that's my doctor hat, but I'm also trained as an artist, and I am going to share with you um, insights and activities from almost more from the artist side of me than from the doctor side of me, and so we're going to go through this hour we have together here, and I'm very grateful for all of you for joining. We're going to focus our attention on because this is a class for that was called for the people of Los Angeles, although we welcome everybody. And I myself live in Los Angeles, and although I did not have a house in the immediate neighborhood of the fires, those fires were very stressful for all of us. And it wasn't really until we had a day and a half, 3 days of clouds and a day and a half of sort of rain that many of us felt that we could release our hypervigilance and feel safe. And that takes a toll. And that takes a toll. And certainly for those of us who were really in physical danger or lost their houses, their livelihoods, their environment, their whole neighborhoods, for those folks, we really feel like we want to share with them some ways to help in this very difficult time. So, so the title that I have for this, and I'm going to share some slides and get started with that. And I invite all of you to, you can please drop your answer the prompt in the chat if you feel like you're comfortable with doing that, what you'd like to have healed or soothed or calmed or have the rough edges taken off a little bit in our time together today. That's going to be your intention for this session. And as we go through our exercises, you might want to keep that in mind. And if you feel like you want to tell me, then I can certainly, and I'll enjoy looking at that through the course of our time together. Alrighty. So I'm going to share, and I'm going to turn on my slides. Okay. Now I'm going to minimize the pictures of all of you while you're looking at my slides to make it easier. This is my title for this group. We are talking about developing resilience, but I think I want to focus on the idea that we are in the place we are now, healing our hearts from a real trauma and absorbing all the fear, the grief, the stress, in our environment, being really destroyed for the last 3 weeks is what I'm working on today for all of us. So do you feel like this now? Do you feel like this often in your life or any time in your life? And if you do, I would invite you to take a moment right now and just center yourself, close your eyes, and ask yourself, how do you feel right this minute? Just briefly check in. You can scan your body. You can see if you're holding tension. Are you holding your breath? Are you hands knotted up? Is your back tight or sore? You can scan your mind. Are you experiencing anxiety, worry, um, perseveration, just turning around something in your head and something around in your head? And for some of us, this is a real this this feeling of, oh my God, too much, stop, is in our spirit, and it's just a sense of overwhelm. And I feel like, just listening to the news can engender this feeling in me sometimes when the news is really tough and really difficult. So just get a picture in your mind of where you are right now. You were asked to bring paper, lines, pencils, colors, whatever you want to do this. Don't overthink this. We're just going to take a second, but I want you to take this moment and just draw for me quickly what right now. Who are you right now? What's inside you right now? It doesn't have to be representational, and don't overthink it. I'm going to give you a second to do that. Okay. Um, did everybody get something down? I'm gonna look at the pictures now and see if y'all are still working. Okay, I'll give you another couple of seconds. Okay, now let's set that picture to the side, and I want you to hold on to the feeling you had with this, but we're gonna go on now. And most of us are feeling stress. I think that's a very common, it's the malady of the modern world in a way. But I want to take a second to remind you, and this is as a physician, not just as a human being, but that there are lots of different levels of stress. And if stress gets us out of bed in the morning, makes us apply ourselves to a deadline coming up for something we want to test, we want to study for, a paper we need to write, or any of those kind of things, then that's not bad. That's functional. That's the way it should be. It's usually self-limited. And after the stress, we take the test, win, lose, or draw, the pressure's off, and we take a deep breath, and our life comes back, and we come back physically in ourselves, body, mind, and spirit, to baseline. That's the recognition of what good, beneficial stress is like. Once you get to tolerable stress, things aren't all good anymore. The stress response is stronger, it may last longer, and you tend to lose your functionality over time. If you're so tied up in worrying, you start to not be able to make good decisions. You start to maybe pick coping mechanisms that aren't quite as good. A lot of people do this by having a glass or two or more of wine, and that's maybe okay, but you can see where that would interfere with your functionality over time, and wouldn't help you necessarily address what's got you really stressed. The stress is persistent and you may not come back to baseline completely. Toxic stress is a stress response that's severe, sustained, may have physical effects, migraines, high blood pressure, um, things like that that are accumulating now as your body is turned full on and the stress response lasts. You may, with this severe stress, your mood may be impacted. You may not be sleeping well. You may even lose your kindness or your ability to think about others in this state. So if you get to this anything below the green level, we want to start being able to do something about that, moderate it, and have be able to be have a better response. Now, when you face adverse conditions, big stressors, and believe me, these things that are happening in our lives right now are big stressors. You have to be able to separate yourself at least a little bit from that imminent pressure and stress. And the degree that you can do that, the degree to which you can give yourself a little room allows you the room and the ability and the opportunity to choose how you're going to react. So someone hurts your feelings, and under that stressor, if you don't have the ability to step back a half a step and remember that you really love the person who's just insulted you, you might just snap their head off, okay? So if something really overwhelmingly awful happens to you, if you can't find any place to step back, you may not have the ability to pick yourself back up and continue to carry on, not ignoring the stressor, not ignoring this loss, but to be able to start to, you know, like Scarlett O'Hara and Gone with the Wind, tomorrow is a new day, okay? So we're going to talk about things that counteract the effects of stress and that increase your opportunity to have room and the mind space and the spirit to make a choice in the moment of stress. I think the first thing to acknowledge is just look at this picture. There's really no stress here. This is beautiful. It's a calming forest scene. Nature is lovely. You can imagine the water running. You can hear it from the picture of the falls. The colors are intense and lovely. The bright fall colors of the leaves, the tranquil turquoise of the water. So this is an opportunity for you to know that if you can get yourself into this kind of a space, literally if you have the access to the outside, and if not literally, then imaginatively, and even just having pictures of this kind of stuff will be really, really can start to trigger the relaxation response. And we're going to talk about additional ways to trigger that response so that you can call on it even when you are under significant stress. And the real character trait that we need to emphasize here is resilience. The ability that if you're squished like a ball, you'll bounce open back again, that you can recover through difficulties, that you can re re you can resist, you can feel the stress, you can feel the stressor, but it doesn't take you out. And the way people talk about this is resilience is not exactly the same thing as strength. An oak is strong, and if you hit that tree over and over and over again, you can break it, but once it's broken, that kind of resistance, once that yields, it's done. You don't have another act after that. You've broken it. But a willow, if you watch a willow go through the water and the wind, it's graceful, it folds, it yields, it flows. And that condition of mental and emotional and behavioral flexibility is what we're talking about here. And often to have that sense arise, you need to quiet sometimes the noise in your head. That's the physical, mental, and spiritual result of the stressor. So balm is an old-fashioned herbal term for a remedy that's by definition soothing. the balm of Gilead is from a thing from the Bible. Soothing balm implies something that's applied lovingly and will yield healing and benefit. And so the three things that I think that can help us achieve resilience and be able to then allow ourselves to soothe and return to our normal shape, our normal self, our calm, getting calm in the physical body and the mind, cultivating gratitude and actively cultivating gratitude, and then finding ways to steep and dwell in gratitude, and then being available for the experience of awe, the experience of just being taken out of yourself by something that's so gorgeous and usually bigger than yourself, inspiring, that it often interrupts the circuits that are tying us to a negative feeling or emotion or event. Joy can also do this, but it's not the I'm happy, it's the just this, like the full Beethoven's Ode to Joy, course. And for some people, it is music. For some people, it's dance. For me, it's more visual. And so I'm going to share that with you now. How are you going to do that? First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about calm. Now, the breath is the beginning of all relaxation. So I want you to take a blank sheet of paper and I want you to, we're going to explore your breath. We're going to have you draw your breath. And you can see here, this is examples from my own sketchbook. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I think this one is my favorite, the one up here in the top corner, where you go up when you do an in breath, down with an out breath, up with an in breath. Oops, sorry. Out with an out breath. That back and forth that you can see follows your rhythmic breathing. You can do it across the page if you want to. You can start small and your circles can get bigger and bigger. This was me being goofy, but I did circles, little spirals and then back and forth with my spiral. As you can see, the more relaxed I got, my spirals got kind of like I couldn't keep them up because I was, this is the top was a very tight breath. And by the time I got here, it had really loosened up. So let's have you take a moment now. I would like you to take your page, pick up your implement for drawing, and just, I'm going to be quiet for a second. I'm going to time this, and then we're just going to draw. Okay? All right, now let's begin. A slow, even breath. Let your hand follow your breath gently across the page. Okay, that was a minute. What did you guys notice from doing this? You can either tell me or you can put it in the chat and then Heidi can tell me. So how was this exercise? How did your breath look? If you don't know what to do to calm yourself down, you can always sit there and draw your breath. And as you're following your hand, you can let your breath get slower and more relaxed. Excellent. Does anybody else want to share? Or Heidi, was there anything in the chat that we should hear about?
There's nothing in the chat yet.
Okay. Just warning you, if you don't put stuff in the chat, I will find you. I'm used to teaching students. Okay, now, for those of you who struggled to get a slow, even breath going, and believe me, I can easily see how that would happen. I'm in your tribe. I want you to try something right now. I want you to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen. I'm gonna let you breathe for just a couple of seconds. So just breathe as normally as you can. Okay, which hand moved more? The hand on your chest or the hand on your abdomen? Vote, but with your voice, demute yourself and vote, or you can put it in the chat.
For me, it was my abdomen.
Well, Gloria, someone has trained you to in what's called diaphragmatic breathing. When you push your tummy out with your in breath, which feels awkward when you first do it, that's a classic way that infants breathe. If you watch them, their little tummies lying on their backs and they push their tummy out and then their tummy collapses. You're moving the diaphragm, which is a muscle between your chest and your abdomen, and you're pulling it down. That gives you your in breath as the active breath and your out breath as the relaxed breath. And you can add to that relaxed breath. You can use this as a way to to get rid of things. So you're going to breathe in peace and you're going to release fear. You're going to breathe in calm. You're going to release anxiety. And so that's one way to do it. Okay. And it allows when your out breath comes, it's a natural collapse of your diaphragm. So it comes back up more naturally. This style of breathing also tells your body through your neurohormonal connections that you're relaxing. And so it tends to, again, foster that relaxation in the body, fosters relaxation in the mind, and allows you to start to let things out of your tight grasp. If you're anxious, you'll notice that you breathe like if you see people like, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious. You've seen people do like this and they even pat their chest like this sometimes. That high up in the top of your chest, shallow breathing in and out, that's anxiety breathing. And you don't want to do that. That tells your body, again, same neurohormonal connections. Uh-oh, something's really wrong here. And I'm not safe. So you want to not do that when you're trying to relax. Okay. So now you have two tools. You can draw your breath and watch how that goes. And you can practice diaphragmatic breathing, which will start to trigger the relaxation response. And this style of breathing is really the basis of virtually any relaxation practice you're going to do. Okay. Now, the next tool I want to talk about it's called slow drawing or meditative drawing. And it's not what you see on the with the pencil on the other side of your screen. That's scribbling. Slow drawing is you go quite slowly. You don't go quickly. You're quite deliberate. It's a very intentional process. I don't care what the outcome looks like. It doesn't matter. The idea is that you're very focused on making the mark. And so you put your pencil down deliberately, you move it across the paper, you get engaged in how the pencil or the pen feels going across the page. You look at the line and then you pick your pencil up, and you draw the next line, okay? Continue to breathe in a slow, relaxed way. Make the sensory nature of the drawing as real to you as you can, and don't judge the output. Okay. So it's very most of us say I can't draw a straight line. Well, that's true. I can't draw a straight line either, but I don't care because I'm not succeeding if I draw a straight line. I'm succeeding if I've got a process that takes me out of my overly thinking mind and is just enough of a distraction that I can let my body relax. Okay. So now I had asked Heidi to send you guys a set of handouts, and you should have a set of squares like these. If you don't have, if you didn't get the squares, it doesn't matter. Just make a couple of squares. I don't want them to be very big. I want them to be no, they should not be any bigger than this size. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. If this is so, I start off usually with inch size squares, actually, to tell you the truth. So draw some squares, make them very even, and now I wanna send you to do some of this slow drawing. Okay. So let me take a look at you guys and see how you're doing. Did you get my idea about this? Did this make sense to you all? Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Yes, please. Even those of you who don't have your camera turned on, you can give me a little feedback. I can tell if you're doing okay with this.
There's
So
a
are we using these like thumbnails or
Yep, they're just
okay.
like emails. Who was that? Who said that?
I'm Gloria.
Oh, hey, Gloria. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, my good breather too, my diaphragmatic breather. I'm gonna just, this is a little frame for you to work in. Don't overthink it, okay? Now, the purpose of the instructions are this. I want you to draw lines across these boxes, and I want you to put each line as close as it can be to the next one. Draw the line, pick up from one side, go back to the beginning, draw across the box, draw across the box, draw across the box, slowly and intentionally. And fill up as many as you need to for the time that I'm going to let you be drawing. Okay? All right. Y'all can begin now. Focus on the physical act of drawing, putting your pen down, going across the page, making it as intentional as possible. And continued in a calm, unhurried manner. If you feel your shoulder or your hand or your arm tightening up as you're drawing, relax your hand. The mark making tool just glides across the surface. You don't have to push hard and you don't have to tense up. If your mind wanders, put your attention back on drawing your lines as close together as you can make them. Okay, a few more lines, a few deep breaths, and let's come back together. Okay, now, Ella, how was that experience for you? What did you notice?
I just came in and I just noticed that I feel a little calmer. I caught the tail end of it and I apologize for being late.
Nope, no problem. You did the exercise and you let me pick on you. Perfect. And you kind of got the effect. You were able to settle in after rushing to get here and knowing you were late and being a little anxious about that. Brilliant. Perfect. Hey, Patrice, did you have any experience you'd like to share?
Yes, hi. I just found it really relaxing. I appreciated your guidance to say, kind of unclench your hand,
Yeah,
relax your arm, because I realized that I
you were.
was, yeah.
Yeah,
So those prompts to, breathe, relax
good.
your hand were really appreciated.
Brilliant. Now, I'm going to ask you all to think about this. Was that long enough? It was 2 minutes. Did that feel long enough?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to have you redo this again. I'm going to change the instructions a little, and then I want you to tell me if you notice a difference, okay? So get your shape ready. I also sent you a handout for circles. If you'd rather draw in a circle instead of a square, the square is usually kind of easier. You can draw in a square, and I'm going to show you, guys, this is a page from my sketchbook, and this is me drawing in circles. And it shows you some of the variations that are available to you. I drew in a different colored paper. I didn't have a black pen. I use a very fine tip pen, and I'll show you the kind of pen I often draw with. Um, uh, Tell me if you can see this. It's a micron pen. Is the focus good? And the tip is really very fine. Okay. That allows me to make marks very close together, which are very soothing. Okay. All right. So get your shape out, pick the shape you want, pick the drawing tool you want. You can do it in color if you want, if you have a colored pencil or a pen. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit different instructions. Take some deep breaths in and out a few times. Center yourself. Set an intention for this activity. And now, start to draw again. Don't be distracted by your lines. If they get a little wonky, if one's a little wonky, take a deep breath, start the next one as close and as smooth as you can make it. Remember to relax your hand. It shouldn't cause you to cramp. It shouldn't cause you to clench. Use your breath if you need it to help release tension in your body. Just enjoy the loveliness of making a mark on paper. Okay, that's it. Another couple minutes down. Was this different for anybody? Or is this experience different than the prior one? That's another thing, another tool to remind you about. You can set your intention in a moment, for the next moment that's coming up. Terrific. And I think the more that you take your brain out of this drawing, the better, because your brain is usually a judgmental little person. So at least I have a very harsh critic in my brain, and I employ her now when I need that degree of not making a mistake. But in terms of something like this, that person is no help. That part of your aspect of yourself is no help. Now, I also wanted to tell you about this drawing exercise. I have patients who use it when they're in the waiting room, waiting to come into the doctor, especially if they think the news might not be good, waiting to hear about some results from a test. I drew before I sat with you guys today to sort of settle me down and focus me and put my mind in this activity, not whatever else my big mind was thinking about. And this thing you see from my sketchbook here, that was I drew before bed because I was more anxious than I wanted to be before I went to sleep. I was a little more scattered than I wanted to be. And 9 circles later, and these two together that are kissing were the last two I drew. I was ready for sleep. So that's another way you can use this technique. So it's something to keep in mind. And
We
we're,
have some comments in the chat, Mary.
oh, please read them to me, Heidi, because I
Okay.
can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So Cynthia said I was able to slow down more than before.
Good,
And then Carol said the second was more meditative.
good,
Ella said, I love my creation.
good.
Um,
And that's another thing. You might like this well enough that you want to stick it up where you can see it, because I have pages of these in my book and my sketchbook. And sometimes when I just look at them, because I've done them in a certain way, I just feel like I get back into that mental physical state that I was in at the end of my drawing. So, and practice makes this better. So, you did this now for 4 minutes and you can see an effect. Imagine how you'll feel if you've done this for 5 minutes a day for a month. You'll be shocked. You might continue on after your 5 minutes are up because the time starts to go like no time at all. Heidi, is that all that?
just a couple others. Anya said at the beginning I was overthinking and then I started to relax into it. Priscilla said I completed 4 squares the first time, the second time only finished one, but
Yeah.
it was going
Yeah.
down. And then
Task oriented, very task oriented. That's a useful thing, but not in this case. So yeah, good.
Krista agreed. Drew said no difference.
Okay, good. Well, Drew, you may be a completely out of your mind person. I don't mean that as crazy. I mean, you may be out of your thinking mind into your drawing self more of the time. Okay, great.
Yes.
Good.
I
Okay.
have a question. Can I ask about that? Because
Yeah. Who's this?
this is Gloria again.
Hi, Gloria.
I was way more in my head the second time because I was thinking about my intention. So
That's
maybe I need guidance on like what's a good way, a good intention. Because I was like, I want to calm down before these 2 meetings I have tonight.
Oh, good.
Then I started thinking about the meetings I have tonight. So
Okay. So that's great. So I think you should consider this like the timer I had on my phone. Set it and forget it. You set your intention and then you release it. And then you just sink into the physicality of this activity because it will calm your arousal nervous system, guaranteed. Because if you just concentrate on the drawing, just on the physical activity of the drawing, trying to get those lines as close together as possible without judgment. I got plenty of wonky lines in here. And believe me, I have to shut myself up sometimes because, that's not helpful. That will help you. And I can guarantee you, if you're worried about a couple of meetings, save out 5 or 10 minutes and do some of these exercises and it will make a difference. Okay. So you don't think about your intention. You just set it and let it go. Like it's like your spiritual timer, if you will. Okay. Okay.
thank you.
All
What
right.
is the name of your book?
Oh, this is a book that it's not about this drawing stuff. The book I did was called Best Remedies. It was done a long time ago. But and it was talking about using integrated medicine for common complaints. You're gonna have to I can think you
I'll
can
put a
still
link
find
in the
it.
chat. There's some
Oh,
versions available online still,
oh,
Mary.
oh, thanks, Heidi. Okay. But I am going to probably develop a book talking about some of this stuff. I hope that's my uh big goal for this year. So you guys are really being helpful to me by giving me your feedback. Okay, now we're going to talk about gratitude next. Gratitude is again another thing that can be cultivated. Absolutely can be cultivated. And gratitude is when you stop yourself and you get your mind and you actually think about things that you're grateful for. And this is one of the revelations from positive psychology. This is psychology. Instead of our usual way of thinking about medicine, we think about the ways in which we're broken or dis-ease or have an illness. We've in integrated medicine, we try to do wellness. What can we do to stay well? Return to wellness, heal, even if a cure isn't possible, etc. In the same mindset, positive psychologists said, well, instead of studying the ways in which we all fell apart mentally, maybe we should spend some time studying people who have this characteristic where they seem to be very healthy mentally, even if they're in a very tough spot. And so that was the focus on resilience and what that looked like. But also they realized that people who, one of the attributes that people who were mentally healthy like this, they were grateful. They had a grateful heart. And this can be learned behavior. And if it's done as a therapy, it was an effective treatment for depression, anxiety, and grief. And this is in heavy science, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. People who were able to cultivate gratitude did better. Now, the next thing you're going to ask me is, I'm in, how do I do that? So the way this was done, here's the basics. You call to mind things you're grateful for, even if they're small, or even if it seems like everything is bad. And you do this regularly, and it helps reframe your thinking. People do this in a gratitude journal. In the clinical trials I was telling you about, you were supposed to write down 3 things every day you were grateful for. And although you might get task focused and task oriented, and it might be like the intention, it might make you a little crazy initially. But at the same time, this does start to train you to start to find the things that are good. So even if I've had a totally crummy day, the fact that the person who served me my tea at the coffee shop smiled and it was nice. That's a little thing, but it can be a profound thing. This is also people who thought about doing these random acts of kindness. Well, you can be somebody's gratitude for something nice that you did, and it can be something small or it can be something large, but it's something you have to do regularly. Okay. And if you do it daily with practice, like riding a bike, you get better. And it's something I always do and I love doing. It's one of the things I enjoy the most. I love doing a gratitude practice because I like bringing things back to my mind and my heart that made me feel good. Things that were astonishing or cheer making or just like, wow, that was so nice. And even watching someone else be nice, I've been grateful for. Watching someone help somebody carry their groceries out of the store, get them in their car. That's a lovely thing to do. And I had I had some trouble with my back and I had to have some surgery, so I was having trouble walking and had walked with a cane. And I can tell you, it was a nice thing to know that people are genuinely kind, often genuinely kind, generous with their time, would have no trouble carrying something for me if I couldn't, would be happy to do it. A million people opened doors for me, and I'm just so grateful for that because it reminded me that, the world is a kind place even when it feels like it's exactly not a kind place. I can find these little places where it has been good to me. So, all right. So what I want you to do this time, I call this the gratitude flower. Take your paper, draw a flower with a center and then big wide petals all around it. Messy, sloppy, I don't care. Give yourself room to work. Okay. And now I want you to we're going to do the same thing we did before. I want you to take a deep breath, clear your mind, center yourself, Focus on this exercise. I'm bringing gratitude to mind. Set an intention. And now, if you're ready, I'm going to want you to start to write down in your flower petals things that you're grateful for. Today, think about today, this week. Gratitude is often coupled with kindness, but it can also be coupled with other values of yours. Honesty, integrity in you or someone else. It can be a nice thing that happened. You got a letter from a friend, and you're so grateful for that friendship that's lasted over a very long time. I'm always grateful when I get into a newly made bed, crisp, clean sheets, and I can really snuggle. Sometimes the little things. Keep your breathing even while you're thinking of things. Okay, let's come back together for a second. This is one of my gratitude flowers from my sketchbook. So you can see I use the center of my flower to put a spiral. That's always a symbol for me of like the labyrinth, walking a path where every turn around the wheel is deeper, broader, but you're circling around the same thing. That's a personal symbol for me. You may have a symbol, you may put a word in there, but tell me what you put, some of the things you put in your petals. And if you're a little shy, you can put them in the chat. Wonderful.
We have some in the chat, Mary.
Okay. Why don't you share those with me, Heidi?
Hi, I'm Carol. I am grateful for this session, for my yoga teacher, family, and pets.
Nice. Pets are a great comfort to most people. And in times like this, when we have major stressors going on, for those of us who are lucky enough to have pets, they can be a tremendous soothing and healing place for us, a place of real safety, going back to the sense that Lorraine gave us. Okay, good.
Cynthia, reconnecting with old friends, taking time to check in with myself, laughter.
Mhm. One of the things that's in my on my list, in my thing is the excellent roses in my yard, which I don't really do too much about. They just seem to take care of themselves. This was a explosion of white roses when I did this, which was months ago. But that's really, I think all of us can be appreciating our environment, things about ourselves, our relationships. There are lots of places and lots of things to be grateful for.
Ella is grateful for Pilates, centering prayer,
Uh-huh.
curiosity, home, and her skills.
Nice.
And then Anya just mentioned that this was the first year she started a gratitude practice, and it's
Oh,
helpful. A
it's very
reminder of
helpful.
tiny glimmers, which I love that word too.
Yeah, glimmers. And that's you're gonna see, remember that word, Anya, because you're gonna see that I think glimmers are those are the sparks our soul sets off when we knock into something that really lights us up. We get glimmers, we get sparks out of it. So I like that word too. So okay, good.
Drew shared, this is the last one. Oh,
Uh,
one more. Drew shared grateful that to have the space to recenter
uh-huh.
myself, and then Priscilla, grateful for my students and the space and time to create art together.
Oh boy, that's one of my favorite things to do, to create art with other people. Now, we're going to talk for a moment about awe and joy. Um, Often these emotions come upon us when we least expect them. When we turn the corner, or we've been hiking and we finally get to the vista point and we see out over the beautiful countryside laid before us. That's like, wow, that's just amazing. Or the first time I went to Maui and there were just multiple rainbows in the sky everywhere. It just knocked me out. Um, and the joy again is not the I'm happy because I had a muffin. It's I have a deep abiding joy as I look on the face of my child. Just a deep abiding, it's like the water deep inside your heart. It's just a very it's a thing that will take you out of yourself. And that's one of the major characteristics of this this experience. These are things that transcend the individual self often, these emotions, and give us a bigger picture. So I'm going to show you some photos that may help remind you of a time when when you yourself felt awe. And again, awe is it again has very physical responses. It calms the sympathetic nervous system. It triggers the vagal nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic or the rest and relax, as opposed to the fight or flight nervous system. It releases oxytocin. It helps deactivate negative self-talk. If you're just dumbstruck with awe of something just overwhelmingly beautiful in front of you, it's hard to say, and my butt is fat. You can't run those two things at the same time. Other people, like I said, can get this from joy, from expressions or actions of faith. These feelings, when you find them, stop and notice them, store them up and revisit them, because these things really nourish you and you need to keep track of them. They can go into your gratitude book too. They often do for me. Okay, now here's some pictures. Reminds me of the multiple rainbows I saw in Maui, just this atmospheric phenomenon when it's both sun and rain at the same time. I like the fact that it occurs in that space where it's neither completely sunny nor completely rainy. We get this beautiful mark in the land. And then this whole valley is so peaceful and calm. Um, this might inspire awe for me. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a totality, a full eclipse of the sun or the moon. We had a lunar eclipse not long ago, and we've had partial eclipses of the sun here in Los Angeles. And that, for us, is a very unusual experience when you can basically see the heavens move across in front of your eye, and you get this feeling that that's what's happening. That's awe-inspiring, and certainly for our ancestors who didn't have our scientific understanding, it was an awe-inspiring thing for them. I think when I see new life come back out of something that's desolate, I find that just awe-inspiring. And the resilience of nature is definitely awe-inspiring for me. So I want you to do something with me now. This is sort of our last drawing exercise together. And I want you to take a moment, and I want you to take out the first picture you drew, set that down in front of you, get a second sheet beside it. Then I want you to try to see if you can trigger some of this feeling of awe or joy in front of beauty, in front of a gorgeous piece of dance, lovely music, an exquisite painting. You can have these experiences by observation if you're not an exquisite dancer, an exquisite artist yourself. You can trigger the same feelings, okay? And so I want, if you can, I'm going to have a picture in a moment that you can look at to help you remember one of the other pictures I showed you. I want you to take, again, a couple of deep cleansing breaths, center yourself. Your intention this time is to hold awe and to let that feeling permeate you. And then I want you to go back and revisit the self you brought to this exercise, symbolized by the picture you drew. Thinking about all the activities and techniques and tools we just went through. And I want you to redraw that picture of yourself so you can remind yourself, so you can feel yourself, revisit yourself in this state. Okay? So let's get started. Hold a picture of the most beautiful sunrise or sunset you've ever seen and what it feels like to be in the presence of majesty. When heaven and earth feel aligned and everything's right. As you're drawing, don't forget your breath. Make sure it's easy and free. Don't hold it. Draw your attention back to your hand. Make sure it's loose. If you're using colors, appreciate their vividness. Keep breathing. Remember the relaxation you felt in the earlier exercises. Let it come back to you now. No one's going to judge your output. It doesn't matter what the picture looks like. It matters if it reminds you of how you feel. Mhm. The proper word for this feeling is wow, wow, wow. It's a combination of appreciation for what you're seeing and feeling, gratitude for the fact that it exists, and it takes you right out of your head. Okay, let's come back together. This is one of the windows at the Louvre before the fire. And there's nothing as quite as stunning as Renaissance glass on a sunny day. I should have said that's medieval glass, not Renaissance. I beg your pardon. Okay. Now, you guys have had the experience of having two pictures, yourself when you started and yourself right now. Can you share with me how the two pictures compare? And that's the message of this, that These tools I taught you are available to you. They're not expensive. They don't cost a ton of money, and they will help you trigger these states in yourself.